Hey guys, this is Ben the Creator, and we are here doing another podcast. And I'm super excited because I've been wanting to expand myself with the type of people that I connect and network and then also create content with. And today I'm going to have the first music producer, and I'm here with Jerry Tamborazo or what?
Tambora
Tambora
Garcia. Yes.
Garcia. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his story, how he got in the industry, and just pretty much your origin story. And I got some questions to ask you because I'm really excited to learn more about your industry because I never had an opportunity. So I'm just going to be straightforward. So with that being said, tell us a little bit how you got started and where does Tambora come from, like that nickname?
So just to tackle the tambora question, tambora is a Dominican drum. It's
Mhm.
essential in merengue music. It's almost like heavy part of that culture and that genre of music. That was something a little bit more later. Early, just like many other maybe families, Hispanic families, I'm an only child, but there was a second bedroom. That wasn't for a kid. That was for a bunch of instruments and things like that. So the drum kit, bass, congas, timbales were there because my dad was a musician back in the day before I was born. So just picking up drumsticks, getting the hook of rhythm, playing trumpet in middle school for a good chunk of years through high school. And then just growing up listening to music. I remember Radio Disney was big as a kid and Hanson and things like that.
Oh, I remember that.
I wasn't listening to that.
Yeah.
I was listening to when the Beatles anthologies was dropping, a lot
Yeah.
of oldies, 70s funk, Earth, Wind and Fire, Kool and the Gang, Jungle Boogie, things like that, Baroque masterpieces, which is orchestral music. Anyways, all of that just kind of collateral damage per se, or just the keeps going into more like Latin tropical salsa music through my dad,
Yeah.
playing the same cassette back and forth, Hector Lavoe, Willie Colon. And then eventually that just turned into an appreciation for the influences with composing, songwriting, blending things.
Yeah.
And then what I am more now mentally is combining Latin tropical, Latin urban sounds
Yeah.
with sounds from all across the world, Myanmar, Dubai, Indonesia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, instruments from very unique places. But I
Yeah.
want to blend that with more mainstream sounds, synth, kicks,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff, good hooks. And then the tambora drum is just something that I feel that's an instrument I enjoy. But really, I don't discriminate when it comes
Yeah.
to music and instruments and art and creativity.
Did someone just say, hey, because like right now, like my social media presence name is Ben the Creator because like I create content. That was self-appointed. Was this a self-appointed tambora that you put out, or is it like, or someone say, hey, you're really good at this?
Yeah, I think self-appointed, just part of the branding that I
Yeah,
like.
exactly.
I've had different kind of producer names when I DJ'd for a while, but it's just something that just works for me. Jerry Garcia, obviously, people connect that with the Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia with the band and
Yeah.
stuff. But I just wanted to add something that has not necessarily a Latin feel,
Mhm.
but just an instrument that I appreciate and maybe just has a niche of a sound, perhaps. But yeah, it's just
It's pretty unique. So I love that. And then tell me a little bit on the professional side of who you are as a person. What are your core values in the music industry? Because like you see a lot of stuff on like documentaries about
sure.
people that take advantage of people, money. And so what are your core values in the music industry?
Transparency, good communication, doing things contractually on paper, making sure the goal or the objective is clear on both sides. I don't overpromise. I don't even try to give the idea of celebrity success, millions, Lamborghinis. That's not really anything that I do. I look at music. Obviously, I enjoy it just like you enjoy it as a consumer. But music is a product. It's something that people enjoy and it's very subjective. My thing is just if I work with somebody, making sure that everything from a human to human business approach is honest, everything on paper. And then, of course, making sure that the creative and the business coexist. Just being good with people,
Yeah.
like any other industry, almost like with healthcare and other things like that. Everything is based on people and adapting to their needs and the way a personality blends with another. So obviously we want creative things to work or to coexist and everyone trying to make the idea the best as possible. But this is as much as a human to human thing relationship, just like anything else that you provide at the bedside, a thing that you provide from a legal aspect,
Yeah.
anything that has to do with just providing a service. And it's fun in the process, but it does take work when it comes to things behind the scenes.
I think the cool thing about what I'm learning from you, because before we actually set this up, I talked to you a little bit and I learned a little about the industry, and it's a lot like business. Like the fundamentals are like, all right, you got to be consistent. You have to be transparent. Number one, transparency and being honest. Like it's something that one of my mentors always says, man, if you say what you're gonna do or your service is gonna do, okay, if we put out the convenience of filming a podcast and
Hmm.
you film for 1 hour and then we get multiple clips so you could actually put out content for the month and you literally deliver,
Hmm.
you don't have to sell people.
Hmm.
So it was something that like I really feel that I could relate because I, to be 100% honest, I was like a little nervous. I was like, all right, cool. I never done an interview for your industry, and again, like transparency.
Hmm.
And once I learned a little bit about what you do, I feel like, oh, we're practically the same. We just are, your product for me is production and content, social media management. Your
Right.
product is music. You're the expert in your field. And could you tell me something that, wait, like now that we're in the subject about business and how that relates to music, is in the world of business entrepreneur, when you're starting a new business, like for me, I think I have about a year and 4 months in my business,
Hmm.
and add the ups and downs.
Sure.
And then also too, I'm not the best 100%. Sounds bad, right? What I'm about to say. I'm not the best in my industry, but I am consistent.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on like someone that, because I met a lot of people that are uber talented videographers and all that stuff that honestly probably do a better job videography wise, but they're not consistent.
Correct.
And in the music industry, can you give me an example? What's the importance of that, of being uber talented and having consistency in the industry?
Yeah. So music or whatever it is, the art, it has to be quality or something that is just that people are going to, not everybody, but hopefully some. And regarding to the big point you said is just being consistent in regards to having different ideas, something already in the pipeline, something coming soon, the thing that you released yesterday, making sure you don't forget about it. Because the thing sometimes we can forget is that we release something and then we give it some push for a while. And then we focus on the next thing where we forget that our past catalog is going to be new to somebody years in the future. So it's like everything that you have that you released is fresh to the new consumer, the new listener. If I present to you one part of my menu at a restaurant and you really like that, you're either the type of person that you'll come back for the same thing for the restaurant. With music, I think you're going to order not just the first sandwich you heard per se. You're going to order and want to look at everything else and sample it. So that's the thing is that you have to have a catalog that you start to build. Obviously, the sound and the engineering has to be quality. But again, everything that you do from the mixing, the engineering, the distribution, I think something that we can even go into is the time it takes to register a project correctly and things of that nature. But yeah, it's if I do a song once a year,
Mhm.
it can be a great song, but where's the momentum? Where's the buffet of options for the person that wants to check out more in the future? So, like anything, clients, someone that's a physician, someone that's a dentist, isn't going to just focus on really one good patient per week. They want to have a Rolodex coming in, and the word of mouth continues. How the person treats others, that they come through, professionalism, and then just not being flaky. Because
Yeah.
I've had experiences like that of just things that I don't understand why people shy away for certain things that I present to them that shows that I want to approach things seriously. And it sometimes is a turnoff because I think they focus on just the fun, what sounds nice and easy, but the work related stuff, even if I'm going to help them with it, maybe isn't as attractive or it just can be a turnoff to some people.
I think it's pretty cool how you mentioned that when you put out something that maybe takes off and then there's a whole old catalog of music out there.
Mhm.
It again, like I'm hearing you and then I'm like, oh,
You're
you know
blending
what?
it
This,
with your
I'm
brain.
like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
like I'm processing it and I'm like, oh, that's related how when people put out content that they have content that maybe they posted 2 or 3 months ago
Yeah.
and they could use that, repurpose that old content, put it out again because someone else might see it and it's their first time seeing it. So it's pretty cool that I could relate to that.
Sure.
Again, I'm really excited about this. I'm definitely enjoying this. And earlier you mentioned how your point of view of music, it's more like a product. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Just because there's a multi-use of it, obviously it's something to be listened to. But in regards to the options where how things are used for licensing, things for every commercial, even a lot of what's popular with social networking, with whether
mhm,
it's the new dance, the
mhm,
new silly thing that kids are doing, there's music in the background, the trailer for the new film, the music that's for those 5-10 seconds leading into the commercial break, from an NBA game, from something. And the thing is, there's so much how we consume visual that just imagine a movie that you like, that you were to remove all the compositions of the film, or the scores that they call them. If it had no music, that film that you're looking at, it just lacks so much of the feel if you
Yeah.
don't have the right music to go with the visual. And of course, just people listening to it, the great thing now is that just because you are here in the Valley with me, you're not necessarily going to be the one person to focus on. I can have somebody from Dubai that likes what I do, or somebody that's in Latin America. Everyone has a cell phone. The majority of people have internet. Majority of people have access to streaming or YouTube. So it's just the idea that you don't have to have vinyl records, or you have to buy a physical CD. You can just look for something. And sometimes some of these different playlists, or the way that, for example, Spotify will present something that you might like, and you simply decide, I like it, I'll heart it, I'll skip it, or if I like it, what else has this person does? Let me look at their bio. The bio will take me to the website. The website will take me to their Instagram, or this or that,
Yeah.
and then other similar artists. And can I know when the next thing is coming out and be the first to know? Do they have merchandise that they have available? If I'm a songwriter, I like what they've done. Maybe I like to present myself and see if I can do
Oh,
something
wow.
with them. So all the musicians I work with, and a lot of the talent that I work with, are out of the country.
Yeah.
So they don't need to be here locally. Obviously, there's still that face-to-face that's valuable with working with somebody in person in the recording booth. But there's just a lot of versatility when it comes, versatile ways to work nowadays.
Like, we were talking the other day, and I was getting to know you, like, because, like, for me, my mentor always says, hey, when you're talking to people,
Mhm.
like, what is, like, he says, always ask questions. So I was digging deep about you, and just to be 100% honest, because it's my first time doing an interview like this, I wanted to make sure I could be of value and support this, and make this, hey, let's knock it out of the park. You mentioned something about the importance of having moms in the music industry. Like, you gave me a quick breakdown. I try not to go dig deep when we're having these
Yeah.
conversations. So can you break that down, and why is that important?
Yeah. So again, if you order a meal,
Yeah.
you want it for the family to enjoy.
Mhm.
So the thing is, and again, this is just my philosophy, my perspective, is that if you can get the mom of the household, because yes, dad is the head of the household, or at least for many families it is.
Mhm.
But if the mom likes, enjoys the product, consumes it,
Yeah.
more likely that the kids who are maybe minors, they'll be allowed to listen to it, whether again they buy again merchandise, if they all as a group go to the concert. So a mom of the household to me is an important person to enjoy the product or enjoy the music as well. So in a sense, just because as much as there's different cultures and languages, there's a pulse that the mom keeps tabs on. She obviously wants the certain influences to come in the house and things that are important to her. So in a way, if mom likes it, everyone else is going to like it. I'm not trying to say that everyone is forced to listen to what mom
Yeah.
likes, but in regards to decision making in collaboration with the dad, mom tends to be someone that can determine what filters in and maybe what doesn't so much. But again, it's not for me to tell you or anybody else what you should or shouldn't listen to, because everyone has their own views on morality and lyrics and things like that. Looking at music as a product, I want more people to snack on that as possible.
Yeah.
Not everyone has to like it creatively or musically, but at least in the sense that it's not a bad idea if the mom, young, not so young, hopefully likes it and wants
Yeah.
to hear more of it, whatever the product may be of that music.
So it's almost like, if mom hears it's almost like, for me again, like, I'm relating to life,
Mhm.
and it's like, I have a little one that loves YouTube,
Okay.
and we'll watch something. Hey, you know what? This is not really that good for him. And we're like, skip this, or get him on a different app or whatever. So it's if the mom approves and saying, hey, this is like cool music for dancing, or the lyrics, all
Te
that.
lo cambio. Here,
Te lo
let me
cambio.
throw this back at you.
Yeah.
The Baby Shark song.
Uh-huh.
You've heard it.
Yeah, of course.
If your kid likes it, do they listen to the song once?
No, they'll listen 100 times.
And that's maybe even putting it low.
Yeah.
So again, you, mom, parents are like, you have to filter what, because music is influential like anything else, just like you wouldn't let any random person in the house.
Yeah.
In a sense, you want to know what's being introduced to the young kid or the person's brain in general. So just imagine if all the kids that like Baby Shark only listen to it each once, that would drastically change whatever streaming numbers, whatever money that made, however the song produced, or any royalties and things like that. You gave one example of depending on how you feel about a certain, whether it's the visual with the music video, if it's not going to come in the house, you're not even going to play it for more than 10 seconds. But if it puts the kid in a relaxed maybe mode, so you can do something on the side and watch your kid and they're watching something that you're comfortable with. If the kid is enjoying that and they loop that same thing 10, 15, 20 times, obviously the kid's going to start singing it and then you might start having a headache. But just multiply that experience of one or the other with whatever millions of families there are out there. Yeah.
So with this whole thing, like, all right, again, I might sound a little ignorant, guys. Be patient with me. How do you like? How do people like? Is it like in movies where people, when they want to connect with you, do they Google you, or is it like, hey, listen to my demo or anything like that? Do you have any crazy stories of people trying to reach out to you to try to show you their music, and if they're trying to reach out to you, like what's one advice or what shouldn't they do? Do you have any cool stories like that?
I'll give you an extreme should not,
Yeah.
which I think nobody here would do it.
Yeah.
But I think in 2017, and there's a YouTube video of me with the seminar I did, and I talked about this because that's how long ago it happened. And some kids sent me to my business account back then, and the subject line said, yo. And then when you go inside the email in the body, it just said, I need a manager. And then there was an attachment. And usually I don't click on attachments, especially if it looks very fake or if it's fakey or spammy. But what it was is this kid who I had never met. I don't even know his name. He didn't even include his name. It was him like in the kitchen of his home wearing boxers and then some long shorts and no shirt, shirtless, doing some improvised rap on the fly with the fridge behind him and some kind of glowy effect for 15, 20 seconds. And it was a valuable just thing because it just showed me of being cautious when it comes to emails, obviously, but also in regards to the first impression. Again, like you meet your physician, like you meet somebody and then the chef, and that vibe can tell you something. But regarding to your other part of that question is always be considerate of the other person's time. I have certain like you mentors or people I go to that have learned a lot more than I have. And whenever I want to pick their brain, I always first ask about their availability. And if I haven't worked with them before or asked them to do some kind of consultation, a video consultation or a phone, I ask them what's fair for your time in regards to the fee. And then I make sure to cover that cost up front before I even initiate the call, the video chat, whatever. And then there's always a purpose to the conversation. What are some objectives, some questions? I don't just do small talk. It's not about just trying. I don't see them as trying to use them as a come up. I'm not looking for a handout. I'm looking for a favor. Maybe I'm looking for some kind of strategy, suggestion, feedback. I'll have them hear a song before I've released it. Like it, don't like it, anything sonically that I should keep in mind. But just first impression, don't waste people's time. Be considerate of the value for their time. And then when you do that, the next time you want to reach out for something, they'll know, oh, this guy that had reached out to me a year ago, he was serious then. Yeah, I'll give him another hour. And then again, as time goes on, you might ask for something, you might send a quick message to them, and they'll answer you without expecting anything in return. Again, not because you're looking for a favor, but it's a good business relationship, and it shows that you appreciate their knowledge, their experience. And it gives you also a good idea of questions to ask as you keep interacting. Again, this is all a human-based thing. Forget the music for a second. It's really about how you approach somebody, how you virtually shake their hand. And we're all learning. That's the main thing, is that we're always learning. And it's not even about being the best. It's just being about the best version that you are. And then creatively, whatever's part of your combined sound, lyrics, just uno poder mejorar is probably the better word. But yeah, it's just exercising that muscle of knowing how to treat people and giving a good first impression, whether it's email, video, or in person. I'm going to say it a third time, be considerate of their time. Don't pull them aside because you see them at some conference and you're going to be like trying to distract them from their family or other friends they have at some conference. Maybe just a quick introduction. I have something maybe you want to check out when you have time. May I email it to you? Is it okay with you? Ask permission. They'll keep that in mind. But just a few things like that I keep in mind when it comes to first impressions and meeting somebody.
For me, when I started my company, and I was brand new to this is our foundation of our business.
Mhm.
We do social media management, we do production, and we're gonna start doing even Facebook ads. That's something new we're gonna add.
Mhm.
But in the beginning, when I started doing the podcast, I one of my mentors always says, be of value to others. So when it comes to the music industry, does that apply where, okay, say you want to be your, I don't know, there's like a club and there's live music there and you're an artist and you want to put out your music. Like, how important is it to be of value to people that you want to do business with or you want to work with? Or like you said earlier, like people you want to connect with, like in
Well,
your industry?
yeah, like for somebody that does performances and does things at live venues and things like that, sometimes people just want a handout. They
Yeah.
want an angel investor, as they say. And because maybe they think they look a certain way, or because they say their voice is incredible, because that's what their grandma has told them that they're the best since sliced bread. But the thing is, for some person, if you approach them and you want to, for example, perform at a live venue or an event or a restaurant,
Mhm.
sometimes they might want to also look at, okay, if you perform, how will that affect my sales of my food and beverage? How will that affect with people that'll be introduced to my restaurant? Things of that nature. So, what I always something to be honest about looking in the mirror is, again, where am I in such stage of my career? Again, the catalog of music that I've done, how much experience does a person have? How does the quality of what they've done sound? And they can also reach out for getting feedback and things like that. But just when it comes to value, I mean, nowadays, a lot of it has to do with, again, a following,
Mhm.
interaction, people that, again, consume their product or their music. But again, whenever you meet somebody, just be more upfront about what you can do to be an asset to them before
Mhm.
saying, hey, can I have an hour of your stage time and not really have anything? It's almost just introduce yourself and want to know more about their needs and things like that from their business, again, whether it's a venue or things of that nature. And then if they like what you bring to the table, great. And if they don't, no big deal. But you just can't try to force them to provide you some kind of stage time or some kind of favor. Just, yeah, what do you bring to the table? Just like for the songwriter, if a person only done a few handful of songs, there has to be something to show for the person looking for some kind of help or some kind of favor. And of course, you might need to invest financially in certain things, and that's only fair depending on what there's no price, like
Mhm.
there's no fixed menu on what it costs to perform or what the fee is for producing a song
Yeah.
or for a songwriter or for it to play for a bass player.
Yeah.
If I want to charge you $1,000 an hour because I feel I've been nominated for 2 Grammys and won 3 and I have these Billboard awards, I can charge you whatever I want. If I have
Yeah.
nobody that's willing to hire me, then that tells me that maybe I'm overpricing myself.
Yeah.
But it's all subjective. But again, also doing things on paper and understanding what the expectations are is very essential.
And do you think being like lazy or undisciplined could that leave money on the table if you
Yeah. It Sure. It sounds great verbally to say, "Oh, I got 20 song ideas, man. You got to hear them."
yeah.
Or, "I can't wait for you to hear what idea I have." And then a month later, it's, "Oh man, that idea is so hot. You just can't wait till I write it for you or I
Mhm.
produce it." So, yeah, you just got to execute. You just got to do it. Just time passes, things like that. There has to be some level of momentum, I would say. Again, it's just if you are very limited to what we have to show for
Mhm.
yourself, then the person that's hungry for more won't have anything to chew on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So it's just, but you have to enjoy the process of learning, of making mistakes, of having those first songs that sound like garbage. And maybe at the beginning, you can't really invest in, again, maybe the musicians you want or the
Yeah.
engineers you want, but the person that works Uber, works part time, has 2 jobs, if they really want to release, I always recommend, instead of doing 10 semi good quality sounding, again, the idea, the creativity, I can't tell you if it's good or not. Each
Mhm.
person will determine, but it is worth it to release something that's high quality. Even if that just means the guitar and the voice, that the way the guitar is recorded and the voice and the way the space is being taken up by those two things, even those two, a vocalist and a guitarist, can take up a lot of space in what you hear and it can sound like a big production if done correctly.
Mm.
Where if you listen to something just very mono-ish or just something
Yeah.
that's done very garage-like, it just might not have the same feel. But that's the fun thing of art, is that I really can't tell you if something's good or not, because it doesn't matter what I think. If you like it, then do it. And just if people like it, great. And if it's not, if they don't like it, then it's up to you. If you value that, or if you want to just keep doing what you're doing, because you don't know who's going to be listening to it that might like it.
Yeah.
Again, it's just part of the fun that each person has their own perspective on music and taste.
To add on that, I'm gonna go from that where you just said about like how people have their own taste in music, and I feel like in the last, it's funny because like I just turned 36 not so long ago,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, music's so different now. Now I feel like music is sounds the same.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your opinion, or I don't know maybe if I'm gonna ask this correctly, but if you're like an artist, do you just follow the trends? Like all this, there's a lot of these artists that almost sound,
Mm.
or do you, as an artist, you make music that you love and you're like you could connect directly? What's your opinion on that?
Me personally, there's things that influence us throughout the years
Mhm.
and our tastes. So just first of all, I blend. There's nothing new under the sun.
Mhm.
All different music has already been done. It's the same notes. It's the same white and black keys. There's no like secret note that nobody's heard of.
Yeah.
Obviously, certain notes going together is what gives a certain feeling of something sad, of something energetic. But so for me, I combine different things that normally wouldn't get along, whether it's, for example, an instrument from Pakistan with salsa music, just
Mhm.
sprinkling the right amount of something from some other part of the world with the Latin music. That's my angle with it, or what my goal is. Now, a lot of people will tell you, and from me asking others, is that if you hear what's trending and then you want to start doing what's trending, you're late to the game. That's what everyone usually has told me, is that if something is the current thing, whether right now it's the regional Mexican, it's like the norteño, and if it's
Yeah.
that whole Southwest Texas, New Mexico kind of blend, where all these urban artists that would never do such a thing 2-3 years ago, everyone's jumping on the train.
Oh yeah.
So everyone's doing that. If that's what you really want to do, it's not my business to tell you to not sound like such and such. But I think, and it's not to sound cocky, I think a lot of people just chase whatever is out there to
Mhm.
sound like the such and such person, because maybe they like their brand, their look, what they represent. But I really don't know if they like it. I really don't know if it's something that is creative coming out of them. If you were to just let them pick from every instrument out there and style and tempo, BPM, I don't know what they would come up with. If they had no influence of what's currently like top 20, top 30,
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what would really come out of them. Or do they have no ability to songwrite because they're going to just do same cookie cutter lyrics of what's considered number one currently? Just like for a while, a lot of artists were doing a lot of dance music, a lot of like up-tempo dance. Even salsa artists like Mark Anthony for a while in the earlier 2000s was doing a lot of dance sounding music. But that was the thing then, and
Yeah.
there was producers that were combining with Latin artists. And then now, like with English, there's like the urban country,
Mhm.
like country with the rapping, tattoos, looking cool. So it's just blending those two things. But I don't know how many of performers or singers, if they really like what they're doing, or they're doing because they hear what's being listened to or played mostly,
Mhm.
and they feel like that's almost like what they're assigned to do right now
Yeah.
till the next thing. So I don't know if they enjoy that. Maybe they feel like they're doing music, but again, it's not for me to say. It's almost like you want to challenge yourself to have a niche, have something that's unique about you. Just diversify yourself. Be willing to take a dangerous risk. Don't leave who you are, but be a little bit open minded, because the US or Latin America or South America is such a small percentage of the world. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just again, some people with foods, there's just so much out there that to taste and flavor, and just to get an idea of what's seasonings and all that kind of thing. But again, not everyone might be open minded, and that's not my business to tell them that they have to be.
And I guess I'm gonna ask you this question like more on the, because I could hear it in your voice.
Mhm.
What's your why are you so passionate about music? Like what's the drive? Like where does that come from?
Are there certain songs, Ben,
Mhm.
that take you to a certain time in your life?
Oh, yes.
Is there songs that remind you, I don't know, first date, or maybe a big important event
Yeah.
or a sporting event.
Yeah.
And then there's a feel.
Yeah.
So music has this thing where it just connects with you with something going on at that moment, or it just has a way to make you feel something at that moment. So I've talked to people that maybe music isn't as important for them. They enjoy it passively, but I'm not good at algebra. I'm not a
Mhm.
math guy. I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
I hear music in the exhaust fan of the restrooms, the pump, the IV pump, when the med runs out by the patient.
Yeah.
When it's out, it goes,
Yeah.
"Dit,
Yep.
dit, dit." And if you hear that, the note has a certain tonality
Yeah.
and it sticks to a certain rhythm.
Mhm.
As walking by an IV pump when I used to work in healthcare, you can, if you wanted to, you can sample that sound. It's going to be on beat, add a drum to it. But yeah, basically, just music is everywhere to me. I just hear it in everything. You can just chop and do things with traffic sounds, with kids playing, with somebody yelling, banging here on the table. So it's just, I don't know. It's what I can't really tell you a formula of why music is what it is to me.
Yeah.
I just like the composing. I like the writing. I like the starting with nothing and just an idea and turning into something.
Yeah.
Finding a hook or a chorus and just really liking that hook.
Yeah.
And then just I will catch myself singing it to myself at 12 a.m. in the kitchen and not to forget the idea, writing it down on a scratch sheet of paper, figuring out maybe what chords go with that. I tend to usually write the choruses or the
Mhm.
hook of the song, build the verses around it, and then just different technical things I can get into. But I don't know, ask the painter the same thing. Ask the person that does something with the spray painting,
Mhm.
somebody that's a tap dancer. Yeah, the gymnast. There's an art to that. There's an art
Yeah.
to everything. It's just part of life. And again, even that is what connects people, man. That's what connects people is just if I can make you enjoy for 3 minutes and a half that drive on the freeway.
Yeah.
I don't want you to drive fast. I don't want
Yeah.
you to crash. I don't want you to do anything nutty. But that's a good feeling that if it gives you a good little escape for something that I wrote in. And maybe you want to hear more of what my brain has to offer.
Yeah.
And what else can I do to help you?
That is so cool. It makes me think about how when I go film a shoot, or even when I get to meet people like yourself, because you're a pretty interesting person, and I'm having these like deep conversations about life and business and just things like that. And because I'm always doing a podcast or like
Yeah.
people hire me sometimes, and I'm always at the time, even when there's no cameras around, I look to my left. Oh, that would have been a good clip. Like he said
Yes.
something inspirational, and I'm already pre-editing. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use B footage for this. And even when I go to these shoots, like my brain is
It's
even
always
though-
cooking.
yeah, it's always like
Yeah.
I pre-edit the video, like
Yes.
or I'm live editing the video as I'm doing the shoot. So I could definitely relate to pretty much everything you just said. And in I don't know if you saw me like smiling because it made me happy seeing you, because that's the same equivalent about creating content.
Mhm.
And this is one of my biggest mentors. His name's Ike Shihade. He owns like this sandwich chain called Ike's Love and Sandwich.
Uh-huh.
And he had a grand opening for a new concept of donuts in Chico, California. And I went out there and I'm seeing him. His company, he says it on podcasts and does over 100 million. And he's such a humble guy. And then while we're hanging out, he was still taking clients and
Mhm.
asking them. And I'm like,
Mhm.
now, and he's like moving stuff around, stocking. And I asked him like, Ike, like, dude, what do you do when you're not working? And he goes, like, when you're doing what you love, like it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
Like he loves to feed people. Like it's genuine. And I just see him happy, dude.
Yeah,
And
you're saying like just because he hit a certain milestone or whatever his bank account shows now doesn't mean then I'm gonna care less
yeah.
because I've made so much more. No, it's also I think want that millionth customer to enjoy the meal like that first one that we know when you opened up a business. It's serving people, man. It's providing something that can be an asset to them or something that they can enjoy their day with and stuff like that. Just some people have a mindset to like to stay busy. I think sometimes our older generations, like for example, perhaps my father, I don't know about your parents,
Mhm.
the idea of retirement, which
Mhm.
means to some people just sitting down and watching daytime TV. A lot of those people don't last very long whenever that's their retirement. There's
Yeah.
some people that might slow down, but they like working.
Yeah.
Hard labor sometimes. I've met people as well that are in their 70 somethings and they already had open heart surgery, plenty of stents, and they still climb up and cut palm trees. And sometimes they do it because they have to. But again, there's some that also understand the idea of just what people assume retirement is, of just laying around. Maybe it doesn't just bring much benefit to them, or they like to enjoy even those latter years and still stay busy and keep their mind spinning, keep active with whatever it is that they do. Even if it's just selling ice cream and bringing a smile to a kid's face, why not?
I love that because passion and loving what you do and staying consistent. This is gonna be like I'm gonna give you a hard question right now.
Mm.
What do you think about like people that give up too easily? Because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have to believe in what you're doing. Like I recently went to Los Mochis, Sinaloa, Topo Lobampo. It's a
Mhm.
new a city out there, and I met this uber successful millionaire. And I asked him like, how long did it take for you to? He like literally owns islands, thousands of acres, businesses. How long did it take you to build that up?
Mhm.
And he said, obviously, he said passion, but also too, what he described was being consistent.
Mhm.
What do you think about people that give up too easily? And then for people in the music industry, I'm assuming it's even tougher than starting a business. Like I can relate to it to a certain extent based on what you're telling me that, hey, you're not going to make it for the next 10
But what
years.
does make it mean? That's my question, not to challenge you
Mhm,
back, but what does that mean? Because I've asked many people, and if they can pay their bills, if they can comfortably have a roof over their head and food, and their family's okay if they have kids, to many, that'd be fantastic. And it's not even about the number of zeros in their bank account. It's just because they can actually be their own boss, create, release, and they already have some kind of following that people see. The idea of someone needing, let's call it, I use the word consumer a lot,
mhm,
millions of consumers of what you release.
yeah.
Imagine if you can just reduce that to something more realistic. Let's call it 1,000 people. You release something and it gets played 1,000 times first by 1,000 people. Many of them repeat it. Of those 1,000 people, you might have songwriters, other producers, others that want to book you for interviews, others that want to buy your merch. Maybe you can also get some kind of licensing. So the little dollars that you can get from a small audience and you multiply that and they just can't wait for the next thing you do, you if you do some kind of simple math, you can realize yearly that can, especially if they're willing to buy a physical copy of
Mhm,
something, or actually pay 99 cents for a single because they support
mhm,
you. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but the thing of what it is to make it, I think a lot of artists that are sincere into their art, they basically said, if I didn't have to work 9 to 5 in something I don't like, and I can just work whatever 1 to 1, some
mhm,
crazy hours
yeah.
doing some kind of art that they enjoy. So it's just you're listening to a song I release
Mhm,
at the same time as somebody from Indonesia is listening to it,
yeah.
or from Colombia. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If the person is focused on how many followers or income, awards, being on stage, getting admiration,
Mhm,
to me, that doesn't really do much for me.
mhm,
Even if in the next 10 years, you don't have the success that other people do on Billboard charts, I hope that those 10 years you don't see it as a failure. I hope that you enjoyed the creation that you've done and your catalog and the work you've done, and you're proud of the music and you've learned through it. Again, somebody might say that what I'm saying is junk, that you
mhm,
should focus on being number one, and that you do want to be a constant Grammy winner and this or
mhm,
that. And that's each to each person their own. But nowadays, your audience can be, you don't know from where, and
yeah.
they can find you and contact you from, you don't know from where, any age range. So that's the advantage of the internet and YouTube, is that what's considered mainstream now isn't like the typical ABC, Fox, CBS. People are consuming this kind of podcast,
Yeah.
and anyone can do what you do, Ben.
Mhm,
Just the execution, being organized.
yeah.
And what if you did 5 episodes and you called it quits because your 5 episodes didn't have 1.5 million?
Yeah.
So again, it's not meant for everybody. In the
Yeah.
insurance business, because I have a background in that,
Mhm,
there's even people that say 8% of agents make it.
yeah.
And that's because you have to go through ups and downs, rejections, loss of money. But in music, I don't know what the percentages are,
Yeah.
But again, a lot of it depends on what that make it word is. I'd
Yeah.
like to think that if you're into that, you're not doing it for a financial gain, for recognition. You want you have to do it because there's something in you to release.
Yeah.
And if you don't release it, it's going to bother you.
Yeah.
Or if 10 years pass by and the ideas that, like you said, you had moments of things about editing in your head.
Yeah.
Imagine if those moments just come and go and you never turn them into anything. You don't actually do them on the editing on your Mac or whatever that
Yeah.
is. And if you're okay with that regret, I guess that's up to you. If you
Yeah.
just go through your life not actually laying down the idea or not writing down the song lyric or not hearing the instrument that you never used before and you want to incorporate it in your next song, or if there's an artist, an independent artist that has a voice that you like, try to connect with that person, see if you can meet at the minds. And if there's a good business and creativity blend. Yeah, I think there's some things, Ben, that I could slap you in the face
Yeah.
and tell you that you need to do and you still won't do them. And there's
Yeah.
things that artists that should be able to do when it comes to, again, you probably have dealt with LCCs and registration of the business
Yeah.
and things like that and SEO. There's things that are essential to do when you release a song
Yeah.
that don't cost you anything. It'll cost you some time.
Yeah.
And people still won't do it because I think they're more excited about putting it out there. And just if somebody steals it, oh, I guess somebody steals it because you never
Yeah.
crossed your T's and you didn't copyright your stuff. I cannot force someone to be organized, to have attention to detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't force someone else to do that. And also it's challenging if the other person that I work with doesn't want to put in their weight on regarding to some of those essential things. Again, a lot of this doesn't necessarily involve spending bunches of money. It just you have, if you value your art, you want to take care of it in every aspect, not just the art itself, but
Yeah.
everything surrounding it as well.
I think it's so beautiful about what you just said about being passionate, that it's not about the Grammys and all these going viral. It's just like literally enjoy it. Because I got to a point where I come from the world of real estate and I was making good money, but I wasn't happy. So like now I'm starting to build momentum and I'm good. But overall, the come up was rough, dude. And but I was happy. And I think it goes back to sometimes it isn't about the like dollar sometimes. It's
Mhm.
about loving what you do and enjoying the process. All right. Usually in the end of the interviews, I usually ask my guests to get
Feels like 5 minutes, man.
right. And I usually ask, what's one piece of advice in your case? Like I usually ask for entrepreneurs. In your case, it's gonna be artists that you give to artists that are thinking about getting in the industry or they love music and they want to do something in this field.
Yeah, if something happens and if nothing happens in the next 10 years how you think it should happen, are you still okay diving in full? Does that make sense? If in the next 10 years, what other people consider success for you, that's not what you need to happen, but you can still enjoy the process of starting and creating and writing and putting your ideas out there, just do it. But the other thing is just be interested in the not so fun stuff as well as the fun stuff. Be willing to learn and ask questions. Everything I'm telling you already know. People
Yeah.
out there already know. But when it comes to creatively, try to find something that is part of a unique brand, of your unique sound. Obviously, if you're a vocalist or you're a singer, hopefully you have a unique voice, but that might be very challenging because there's a lot of good vocalists and singers. But everything about what you do, just be willing to break a few rules, be willing to get it uncomfortable
Hmm.
with some of the stuff that you do. And yeah, just making the mistakes are okay.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost money. If you want to do quality stuff, be okay with spending,
Invest
but
in
it's not
yourself.
costing you what it did in the 90s or the 80s. You don't have
Yeah.
to go to a big studio. You don't have to do anything like that. Some of those things, again, are things that maybe we touched on already,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of very talented people in whatever that is that they do, they just do the climb, like the roller coasters
Hmm.
like this, and then they have a drop and they just stay at the drop stage.
Hmm.
They just they just give up, or maybe it's not that important to them. It's just a fad. They move on to the next thing that they want to do. But for me, it's just part of me. It's just part of what's always going through my brain. It's music is around us and it's always going to be there. And if I don't release it, then it's bad for my health.
That's beautiful, man. All right, man. So if people want to connect and want to hire you, get advice, what's your call to action? Are you on social media? Do you have a website?
Mhm.
This is you can pick a camera and this is where you give out your info.
Yeah, no, people can find me on
Mhm.
tamboramusic.com, Tambora music.com. That has some examples of past music there. People can find me for my Instagram there. There's a way that they can contact me by email. Also, some merchandise that's there. But yeah, I'm available for anyone that wants to use my brain. Whether that means it's a brief conversation, whether that means that they like what I've done sonically and they want to incorporate it with themselves. But yeah, tamboramusic.com. And it's just about meeting people and having building good relationships. And we're all learning. I always emphasize that is that we have to be okay not feeling like you're the most important person in the room and the smartest one in the room. And again, the people that I reach out to as mentors, probably like you, is because it doesn't go to their head. Because at the end of the day, the bleeding is the same.
Yep.
We can all get sick tomorrow. We all have different stresses. We all have different battles that we're dealing with. And that's life isn't supposed to be some beautiful, smooth thing. But I don't want to get into a whole other hour of other topics there, Ben. But thank you for the time. I
All
do
right. Well,
appreciate it,
I
Ben.
appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by, man. Thank you.
You appreciate it.